The galaxy had never been this quiet. For centuries, stars had burned in their usual patterns, planets had spun in peaceful orbits, and civilizations had grown in their corners of the universe. But now, a shadow loomed. It was not a shadow that came from a single planet or system. It was the darkness of fear that spread across star lanes, carried in whispers and hurried messages. The Drall-Noth Armada was coming. The Drall-Noth were not like any enemy the galaxy had faced before. They did not negotiate. They did not pause, they did not feel mercy. Entire star systems had already been swallowed by their advance, and the survivors told stories in hushed tones. Cities turned to ashes, oceans boiled away, and billions of lives erased as if they had never existed. Even the largest fleets had fallen in moments. The galaxy was trembling, and every species knew that if the Drall-Noth reached the heart of civilization, nothing could stop them. In the Valen sector, a coalition of races had gathered. Ships from countless worlds glimmered against the black of space. Command stations buzzed with activity and officers barked orders, but beneath the organized chaos was a current of fear. Even the bravest soldiers, the fiercest pilots, and the oldest commanders felt a creeping sense of doom. They were outnumbered, outgunned, outmatched. And yet, here they waited, hoping for a miracle. It was then that a signal appeared on the communications network. It was unlike anything they had seen before, clear, confident, and brimming with authority. One ship, human, solitary, and sleek, entered the sector. Its hull was long, shimmering with technology that seemed both familiar and impossible. The humans aboard were calm, almost serene, as if the darkness of the galaxy had no power over them. The signal broadcast a single, simple message: "We are here." Across the coalition fleet, every commander paused. Whispers spread from bridge to bridge. One human ship? Could it make a difference? Most dismissed the thought almost immediately. It sounded like madness, but the fear in their hearts was tempered by curiosity. The humans had a reputation. Tales traveled faster than light. Stories of courage, of defiance, of daring that no other race would attempt, and the humans, it seemed, always fought differently. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Alara Vance watched the starfield with quiet intensity. Her eyes were sharp, her posture steady, her mind calculating every possible outcome. "They've destroyed everything in their path," she said softly to her first officer, Lieutenant Kellen Rowe. "They believe fear is enough to make a surrender. They're wrong." Lieutenant Rowe nodded, though his voice carried a hint of, "Oh, we're outnumbered, Captain. The Drall-Noth fleet—" Vance cut him off with a gentle, firm smile. "Numbers don't win wars. Courage does. Strategy does. And humans never quit." The crew moved in silent harmony, almost like dancers in a deadly ballet. Engineers checked systems with precise efficiency. Gunners ran simulations, faster than any AI could, and navigators adjusted courses with a confidence that defied the danger. Each human knew their role, but they also knew something deeper. They were part of a story larger than themselves, a story that might decide the fate of the galaxy. Meanwhile, in the vast darkness ahead, Drall-Noth scouts began to appear. Their ships were jagged, black, and menacing, their silhouettes like knives against the void. They moved silently at first, then accelerated in formation as they closed the distance. The coalition fleet tensed, weapons ready, but hesitation lingered. None wanted to strike first against such a fearsome enemy. Captain Vance did not hesitate. She leaned forward, her fingers flying over the control panel. "Target the lead scout," she commanded. "Fire when ready." A moment later, a single pulse of light shot from the Resolute. The lead Drall-Noth scout erupted into flames, fragments scattering in all directions. The fleet watched, frozen, as the humans demonstrated what seemed impossible. The Drall-Noth had never faced resistance like this before. Shock and confusion spread through their formations. One human ship had destroyed their vanguard, and it had done so without fear, without hesitation. The galaxy seemed to pause. Every being watching from distant worlds, every fleet, every station, every listening post, felt the tremor of something extraordinary. Could one human warship truly stand against the darkness that had consumed thousands of systems? Could hope survive when all logic said it could not? Captain Vance remained calm, her eyes steady on the monitors. She knew the battle was only beginning. The Dralnoth would not stop. They would come stronger and faster, with weapons designed to kill entire populations in a single blast. But she also knew something the rest of the galaxy was only beginning to realize. Humans did not merely fight. Humans inspired. Humans refused to break. And in the darkness ahead, hope, thin, fragile, yet burning, still had a champion. And so, the Resolute moved forward, cutting through the black of space, its lights gleaming like a beacon. The galaxy watched, hearts caught between fear and awe. Somewhere deep inside, even the stars seemed to lean closer, waiting for what would come next. The galaxy was silent, yet it was watching. Every fleet, every outpost, every world that had once trembled at the Dralnoth's name now held its breath. The humans aboard the Resolute moved with quiet determination, unaware that their actions had already begun to change the hearts of many. Even the Dralnoth paused, surprised that such a small force dared to resist. Captain Alara Vance stood tall on the bridge, her eyes scanning the incoming enemy formations. "We have their attention," she said, her voice steady but calm. "Let's make sure we give them a reason to remember us." Her first officer, Lieutenant Kellen Rowe, glanced at her with a mix of admiration and disbelief. "Captain, do you really think a single ship can—" "Numbers are meaningless," Vance interrupted, gently. "Courage is everything. And humans never back down." The crew moved like a single organism. Engineers adjusted shields and power distribution, recalculating energy flows to maximize every cannon and thruster. Gunners checked targeting, systems with rapid precision, their eyes flicking between the displays and the looming Dralnoth ships. Even the youngest crew members, barely trained for battle, held steady, inspired by the calm authority of their captain. From the void, the Dralnoth scouts advanced in tight formation, their black hulls glinting faintly in the light of distant stars. They were fast, deadly, and precise, but something about the humans unnerved them. One by one, the scouts fired, beams of energy streaking toward the Resolute. But the human warship danced through the attacks with uncanny agility. Every movement was calculated, almost artistic. Every shot the humans returned struck true, disabling enemy ships before they could retaliate. A cheer erupted among the coalition fleet, though no one dared celebrate fully. They had seen courage, but they had never seen humans fight. It was different. It was relentless. It was terrifying to the enemy and inspiring to allies. "Captain, sensors show additional Dralnoth reinforcements approaching," Lieutenant Rowe reported. "They're doubling their numbers. They could crush us if we—" "Then we make them see why courage matters more than numbers," Vance said firmly. "Prepare the forward cannons. Full energy to shields. Everyone, stay sharp. Humanity does not retreat." The humans worked seamlessly, a coordinated machine of precision and courage. Each maneuver, each shot, and each calculation was more than strategy. It was a statement. They were saying to the galaxy, to their allies, and even to the enemy, "We are not afraid, and we will not be broken." Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, worlds listened to reports from the battlefield. Systems that had feared the Dralnoth's approach felt something they had not felt in centuries: hope. Small, fragile, but real. The humans were not just fighting, they were proving that resistance was possible, that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, courage could shine through. On the bridge, Captain Vance watched the enemy scatter in disarray. "They think they understand fear," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "But they have never seen humanity fight. They do not know what we are capable of." Lieutenant Rowe nodded, his usual skepticism replaced with awe. It's like watching a storm. One human ship, and yet everything changes." The Dralnoth scouts regrouped, trying to coordinate another attack, but they were already reacting to the humans' unpredictability. Every time they adjusted, the Resolute moved in ways they could not predict, striking precisely where it hurt most. One by one, enemy ships were destroyed or disabled, leaving a trail of chaos behind. Captain Vance knew this was only the beginning. The Dralnoth Armada was massive, and more ships would come. But the humans had done something greater than surviving a skirmish. They had inspired allies to fight with renewed courage. Where once they hesitated, now they pressed forward, motivated by the bravery of a single human crew. "Signal the fleets," Vance ordered. "Tell them to hold their line. Humanity is here, and we will show them how to stand." As messages spread across the sector, morale shifted. Allied fleets that had nearly lost hope began to maneuver with confidence. Star commanders who had thought defeat was inevitable now held their heads high. And even in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, eyes turned toward the Valen sector, hearts stirring with a belief that survival and victory might still be possible. The Dralnoth did not yet understand what they faced. They saw humans as just another species to destroy, another fleet to crush. But humanity fought differently. They fought with courage that could not be measured, with strategy that could not be predicted, and with hearts that refused to break. Captain Vance stood on the bridge, looking at the stars ahead. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "But one thing is certain. The galaxy will remember today. They will remember humanity. And they will never forget the courage that shines even in the darkest hour." And as the Resolute surged forward, cutting through the black void with confidence, the galaxy held its breath. For the first time in countless years, hope had returned. And hope, the humans knew, could change everything. The void of space erupted into chaos. The Dralnoth fleet had arrived in full force, their massive ships blotting out distant stars. They were countless, jagged and merciless, a tide of darkness intent on crushing everything in their path. Around them, Allied fleets scrambled to hold the line, but fear had already weakened many. Panic rippled through the ranks, and even the most experienced commanders hesitated. Amid the storm, the Resolute glided forward with quiet determination, its lights cutting through the darkness like a blade of hope. Captain Ilara Vance stood on the bridge, her gaze unwavering. "Hold formation," she ordered. "Do not break. We fight as one. Humanity does not falter." The first volley of energy beams struck the Coalition fleet. Explosions tore through ships, sending fragments drifting helplessly into the void. Allied officers shouted orders, trying to keep everyone coordinated, but the enemy's firepower was overwhelming. Ships that had seemed powerful moments ago were now burning husks, drifting silently through space. And yet, the humans moved with a precision no one could understand. Engineers rerouted energy to shields. Gunners fired with uncanny accuracy, and the ship seemed to anticipate every enemy move. Captain Vance's voice was calm, but each word carried the weight of unshakable confidence. "Focus on their lead ships. Strike with everything we have. Show them we will not break." Lieutenant Kellen Rowe's hands flew across his console, his heart pounding. "Captain, we're surrounded. They're numbered. We can't hold this." Vance turned to him, eyes steady. "Numbers don't matter when your heart refuses to give up. Humanity never surrenders, remember that." With a sudden surge, the Resolute darted forward, weaving through laser fire with impossible speed. Enemy ships attempted to flank them, but the humans responded instantly. Every attack was met with calculated precision, every maneuver designed to strike fear and confusion into the Dralnoth. One by one, enemy ships exploded, their destruction sending shockwaves through the surrounding formation. On the bridges of Allied ships, eyes widened in disbelief. Some whispered, some cheered quietly, but all felt a spark ignite in their hearts. If humans could fight like this, perhaps there was a chance. Perhaps hope had returned. Even in the midst of destruction, humanity's courage shone. Crew members worked tirelessly, repairing systems mid-battle, recalibrating weapons as explosions shook the ship. Their fear was real, but it was replaced instantly with resolve. They had seen impossible odds before and faced them with unwavering determination. And now, in the heart of the Dralnoth Armada, they fought with the same fiery spirit. Captain Vance's Gaze fell on a massive Dralnoth cruiser moving toward the flanks. Its size alone could crush half the coalition fleet. "Target the cruiser," she commanded. "We cannot let them divide us. Prepare all forward cannons. Every shot must count." Humans moved with synchronicity, their actions almost instinctual. Missiles and energy blasts streaked through space, striking the enemy with deadly accuracy. The cruiser shuddered under the assault, its defenses failing in moments. Another cheer broke out on the coalition fleet, tempered by the danger surrounding them. Yet the battle was far from over. The Dralnoth adapted quickly, launching a second wave of reinforcements, their formations even more aggressive. Allied ships were falling fast, and the void seemed to be swallowing hope. But Captain Vance would not allow despair to take hold. "Focus on coordination," she ordered. "Every move we make must protect each other. Humanity fights not just for ourselves, but for everyone watching. We are the spark that reminds the galaxy what courage is." In the chaos, one of the smaller human ships broke formation. It was a daring maneuver, risky beyond reason, but necessary. With careful calculation, it rammed through a group of enemy fighters, destroying several before they could fire. The remaining Dralnoth faltered, unprepared for such reckless bravery. From the observation decks of Allied fleets, eyes widened in astonishment. They had never seen such fearlessness. They had never seen hope move like a living thing through the darkness. Humanity had changed everything with their courage alone. Captain Vance's voice cut through the tension. "We are not just fighting. We are showing the galaxy what it means to resist. Every move, every shot, every life counts. Humanity does not break, and neither should anyone watching us." As the battle raged, the Resolute carved a path through the Dralnoth forces. Explosions lit the void like distant suns, and yet the humans pressed forward with unyielding determination. Every surviving crew member felt the weight of the galaxy on their shoulders, but they carried it with pride. Even as enemy fire tore across the coalition fleet, the humans remained a symbol of hope. They were fearless, precise, and relentless. Reminder that courage could shine brighter than any weapon, stronger than any number, and more powerful than any fear. And as the void roared with the sounds of destruction, one truth became clear. Humanity was not just part of the galaxy. Humanity was the spark that could ignite hope, even in the darkest, most hopeless battlefield. The Dralnoth dreadnought appeared like a shadow in the stars, massive beyond comprehension. Its hull was jagged and black, pulsing with ominous energy, and the void seemed to shiver under its presence. Even the largest coalition ships quivered at the sight. It was not just a warship, it was a statement, a promise of death, a force designed to crush hope. Captain Ilara Vance leaned over the command console, her eyes fixed on the monstrous silhouette. "This is it," she said softly. "This is what they thought would end us, but they've never fought humans." Lieutenant Kellen Rowe swallowed hard. "Captain, that ship could destroy our fleet with a single strike. Do we?" Vance interrupted him gently. "We do what humans always do. We fight, we never surrender, and sometimes we do the impossible." The humans aboard the Resolute worked like a single entity. Engineers rerouted power to every system, shields humming with energy. Gunners calibrated weapons to pinpoint precision. Navigators calculated impossible maneuvers that seemed to defy physics. Every crew member understood the stakes, and yet none hesitated. They were not afraid of death. They were afraid of failing the galaxy. "Prepare the forward cannons," Vance ordered. "We aim for the weak points. Strike with everything. One shot, one chance, one human will to win." The dreadnought's weapons activated, massive beams of energy slicing through space. Allied fleets scattered, desperate to avoid instant annihilation. Explosions rippled across the void, ships tearing apart in seconds. Fear surged, but the humans held their line, moving with a confidence that seemed almost unreal. The Resolute darted between blasts, faster than any observer thought possible. Energy beams licked past its hull, leaving scorched trails, but the humans adjusted instantly. Every maneuver was calculated, yet daring beyond reason. They struck at the dreadnought's weak points with relentless precision, their weapons ripping, into the massive hull. Lieutenant Rowe's voice shook with awe. "Captain, it's working. Their shields are failing. They weren't ready for this." Vance's eyes narrowed, her mind sharp and focused. "Good. Keep the pressure. We don't stop. We don't retreat. Humanity fights until the very last star dies." The dreadnought shuddered under the assault. Its massive guns fired again and again, but the Resolute was everywhere at once. Unpredictable, unstoppable. The human's courage and skill became a weapon no Dralnoth engineer had calculated. One by one, the dreadnought's turrets exploded, each strike leaving fragments of fire drifting in the void. Around the battle, Allied fleets saw what humans could do. Ships that had been on the verge of panic now advanced with confidence. Pilots who had frozen at the first sign of the enemy now fired with precision. Humanity was not just fighting, they were inspiring. Every shot, every maneuver, every act of courage spread like wildfire through the fleet. The dreadnought roared, releasing a wave of energy so powerful it could have shattered moons. But the Resolute was ready. Captain Vance's voice rang clear. "Shields up. Divert all power to forward cannons. We hit them where it hurts." The humans acted as one. Cannons fired in perfect sequence. Missiles streaked through space like falling stars, and the dreadnought shuddered. Its massive hull cracked under the concentrated assault. Pieces tore off, drifting helplessly into the void. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Could one ship truly bring down a weapon meant to annihilate entire systems? And then, with a final precise strike, a beam of energy tore through the dreadnought's core. It exploded in a blaze of fire and metal, shockwaves rippling across the battlefield. Dralnoth ships scattered in panic, their formations breaking under the sudden loss of their flagship. Allied fleets cheered cautiously, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Captain Vance stood silently on the bridge, her chest heaving, but her eyes steady. "This is only the beginning," she said. "But the galaxy sees now what I always knew. Courage can change everything. Numbers do not matter. Fear does not matter. Humanity does not break." Lieutenant Rowe looked around, still, in awe. "Captain, they're retreating, the Dralnoth. They're actually falling back." Vance's smile was quiet, yet fierce. "Let them retreat. Let them remember this day. Let the galaxy remember that hope lives, even in the darkest hour. Today, humanity showed the impossible is possible." As the Resolute hovered amidst the wreckage, its lights glowing like a beacon, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. Humans had faced an enemy larger, stronger, and more terrifying than anything imagined, and had emerged victorious, if only for a moment. Even the stars seemed to shine brighter that day, as if acknowledging the courage that had defied the darkness. And across the vast expanse of space, one truth became clear. Humanity was no ordinary race. They were fighters, survivors, and above all, symbols of hope that could not be extinguished. And as the remaining fleets rallied, inspired by what they had seen, Captain Vance looked toward the horizon. The battle was not over. The war was far from finished. But for the first time, the galaxy knew this. Wherever humans went, fear had no home. The Resolute had turned the tide. The battlefield was quiet now, but the silence was heavy. Smoke and debris floated through the void, the remnants of destroyed Dralnoth ships drifting among the stars. Allied fleets were battered, their hulls scarred, their crews shaken. The victory had come, but at a cost. Every ship that survived carried a story of bravery, and every life lost left a hole in the hearts of those who remained. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Ilara Vance stood with her head bowed for a moment. The glow of distant explosions still reflected in her eyes. Around her, the crew moved with practiced efficiency, repairing systems and tending to the wounded, but the weight of the losses hung over them like a shadow. Lieutenant Kellen Rowe walked beside her, his face pale. "Captain, we lost too many," he whispered. "Even with our victory, so many didn't make it." Vance's jaw tightened, but her voice remained steady. "Every life lost is a tragedy, Kellen. But we fought because It had to be done. Because if we had faltered, billions more would have perished. Humanity does not fight for glory. We fight to protect, to give hope. That is the cost of bravery. The memorial screens flickered to life, showing the faces of those who had fallen. Young engineers who had repaired shields under fire, gunners who had held their positions against impossible odds, pilots who had flown straight into death to protect others. Each name a reminder of courage, each story a testament to the human spirit. The crew stood in silence, their grief mingled with pride. Yet even amidst the sorrow, something extraordinary happened. Allied commanders who had witnessed humanity's courage firsthand began to speak. Words of encouragement, respect, and gratitude echoed across the fleet. The humans had shown the galaxy that fear could be overcome, that even in the darkest hour, courage could shine. Captain Vance turned to her crew, her eyes burning with determination. "We may have lost some of our own," she said, "but their sacrifice will not be forgotten. We honor them by continuing to fight, by never giving up, by inspiring everyone who watches us. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us strong." Lieutenant Rowe swallowed hard, nodding. "I understand, Captain. Their courage, it's contagious. The fleets, the worlds, they're no longer afraid. They'll follow us now." Outside, the ship, the Galaxy, seemed to respond. Allied forces that had been scattered and hesitant now advanced with precision. Pilots who had hesitated before now maneuvered with confidence. Commanders who had doubted their chances now rallied their fleets. The humans' bravery had ignited a spark, a fire of hope that spread across the sector. And yet the cost was real. The Resolute bore scars from the battle. Its hull was torn, shields flickered, and warning lights blinked across the control panels. Crew members limped to stations, exhausted but determined. Every action, every decision had required courage beyond measure, and the toll was visible. Captain Vance walked among her crew, offering quiet words of encouragement. She stopped at each station, acknowledging the sacrifices made, the lives given, the risks taken. "You all have done more than anyone could ask," she said softly. "You are the reason the Galaxy has hope tonight. Never forget that." In the silence of space, a signal came through from one of the Allied fleets. Commander Lyra Zane, her voice steady but emotional, spoke to the Resolute. "Captain Vance, your courage saved us all. Your crew, your humanity. It reminded us what we are fighting for. Thank you." Vance nodded, her eyes glistening. "We did what we had to do. Humanity fights not for recognition but for survival. And today we've shown that no darkness is too great, no enemy too strong, for hope to survive." The crew of the Resolute looked out at the shattered battlefield. Among the wreckage, the stars shone brighter than ever. Each fallen ally, each brave human, each act of courage had left a mark on the Galaxy. And though the price had been high, the message was clear. Fear could be faced, darkness could be challenged, and even the smallest spark of bravery could light the way for countless others. As the ship drifted among the debris, Captain Vance whispered to herself, almost as a promise, "We fight for those who cannot fight. We fight for hope. And we will never stop. The Galaxy will remember today, and it will remember humanity." In that quiet moment, the weight of loss mixed with the fire of victory. Humanity had paid a heavy price, but the Galaxy had gained something far greater: courage, inspiration, and the knowledge that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, hope could survive, and sometimes it could triumph. And from that day forward, every corner of the Galaxy would carry the memory of what one determined human warship could do when the heart refused to surrender. The stars trembled as the Dralnoth flagship entered the battlefield. It was enormous, a living nightmare of jagged, steel and glowing energy cores. Its weapons were capable of erasing entire worlds, and its presence alone sent shivers through the Allied fleets. For the first time, many feared that even the courage of humanity might not be enough. Captain Alara Vance stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her gaze locked on the monstrous ship. "This is it," she said softly. This is the test. The galaxy is watching, and humanity will not fail. Lieutenant Kellen Rowe swallowed hard, his hands trembling slightly over the console. Captain, it's firepower. If it hits us, it's over. Do we? Vance interrupted him gently. We do not think of death, we think of courage, we think of hope. We fight because that is what humans do. Steady yourself. Focus. Every life counts. Every shot counts. Every human heart counts. Outside, the Dralnoth flagship unleashed its fury. Massive energy beams tore through space, cutting swaths through Allied fleets. Ships burned, exploded, and drifted silently into the void. The coalition was under siege and despair threatened to take hold. But the Resolute moved with uncanny precision, weaving between the beams like a blade of light. Captain Vance barked orders with calm intensity. Divert all auxiliary power to shields and weapons, target its weak points, strike with everything. The human crew acted as one. Cannons fired in perfect timing, missiles streaked through the void, and every strike found its mark. The flagship shuddered under the assault, but it responded with even greater violence. The battle became a deadly dance. Humans and Dralnoth locked in a contest of skill, courage, and willpower. Lieutenant Rowe's voice was tense. Captain, their shields are regenerating faster than we can break them. They're almost invincible. Vance's eyes narrowed, determination blazing. Then we find the unguarded moment. Precision. Timing. Humanity does not attack recklessly. We attack with intelligence and heart. Watch the patterns. Predict their strikes. Strike when the gap appears. The crew worked tirelessly, analyzing, calculating, reacting. They dodged energy beams that could level planets, struck at vulnerable points, and maintained their composure despite the chaos surrounding them. Every shot, every maneuver was guided by courage and instinct, a force no calculation alone could replicate. Around the battlefield, Allied fleets watched in awe. Ships that had been hesitant now advanced confidently, inspired by what they saw. Humanity was not just fighting. It was showing the galaxy that bravery, focus, and determination could challenge even the greatest of foes. The flagship roared, unleashing a storm of energy that ripped through nearby ships. Flames and debris floated in the void, and yet the Resolute pressed forward. Captain Vance's voice rang out over the comms. Hold formation! Trust your crew! Trust yourselves! Humanity fights as one! Then, in a moment of clarity amidst chaos, Vance spotted the opportunity. The flagship's core emitted a brief rhythmic pulse, a tiny delay between energy surges. Now! She shouted. The crew responded instantly. Forward cannons charged, missiles launched, and every weapon was aimed at the exposed core. A single concentrated strike of overwhelming force tore through the flagship's defenses. The hull cracked, energy exploded outward, and the massive ship shook violently. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. And then, the flagship erupted in a blinding cascade of fire and metal. Shockwaves rippled across the battlefield, scattering enemy formations. Allied fleets cheered cautiously, unable to believe their eyes. Humanity had done what seemed impossible. They had destroyed the heart of the Dralnoth armada. Captain Vance stood silently on the bridge, her chest heaving but her eyes unwavering. This is what courage can do, she whispered. Even against the darkest enemy, hope can shine through. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity inspires. Lieutenant Rowe looked around, awe and relief mixing in his voice. They're retreating, Captain. The Dralnoth, they're actually retreating. Vance's smile was quiet but fierce. Let them retreat. Let them remember this day. Let the galaxy remember humanity. Today we proved that even the impossible can be faced with courage, skill, and heart. Outside the ship, the stars seemed to shimmer brighter. Allied fleets moved with renewed determination, following the humans' lead. Across the sector, hope surged. Humanity's actions had changed everything. The Dralnoth were not invincible. Darkness could be challenged. Fear could be overcome. Captain Vance walked among her crew, her voice soft but powerful. You all have done more than anyone could ask. You are the reason the galaxy has hope tonight. Never forget that. Humanity's courage will be remembered for centuries. And as the Resolute drifted among the remnants of the battlefield, the crew looked out, at the stars, proud, exhausted, and filled with a quiet joy. They had faced the ultimate darkness and had emerged victorious, showing the galaxy what it meant to fight with heart, with bravery, and with unwavering hope. For the first time in countless years, the galaxy knew this truth. Wherever humans went, hope followed. Wherever humans fought, fear could be challenged. And wherever humanity stood, courage would shine like a beacon across the stars. The final clash had ended, but the legend of humanity had just begun. The battlefield was silent at last. The wreckage of the Dralnoth fleet floated through the void. Like shattered stars, and allied fleets moved carefully among the debris. The Resolute drifted in the center, its hull scarred, shields flickering, and crew exhausted, but alive. Victory had been won, but its weight was heavy. Each loss, each sacrifice was remembered silently by those who survived. Captain Alara Vance stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. She could feel the pulse of the galaxy, the hope, the awe, the quiet recognition that humans had done what no one else could. "We've done more than fight," she said softly to Lieutenant Kellen Rowe. "We've reminded everyone what courage looks like. Humanity does not bow to darkness. Humanity never gives up." Rowe nodded, still breathing heavily from the battle. "Captain, they're watching us. Every system, every fleet, every world knows now what humans are capable of." Vance smiled, faintly, her eyes burning with quiet fire. "Let them watch. Let them remember. Today the galaxy learned a truth the Dralnoth never understood. Courage is stronger than fear. Determination is stronger than numbers. And the human spirit is unbreakable." Around the ship, the surviving crew worked tirelessly, repairing systems and tending to the wounded. Every action was deliberate, every movement a testament to human endurance. They were exhausted, battered, and grieving, but they were alive. And in that survival, there was triumph. Across the sector, Allied fleets rallied. Ships that had been hesitant now moved with renewed confidence, inspired by humanity's bravery. Pilots, who had trembled in fear, flew boldly. Commanders who had doubted themselves now gave orders with clarity and determination. The humans had not just fought, they had led. They had shown what it meant to defy hopeless odds and inspire hope in others. Captain Vance's gaze returned to the stars. She thought of those who had fallen, those who had given everything to protect others. "We honor them," she whispered, "by never giving up, by continuing the fight, and by reminding the galaxy that every life matters." Lieutenant Rowe approached, his voice hushed. "Captain, the Dralnoth are retreating. They won't be back for a long time." Vance nodded, but her eyes were serious. "They may return, other enemies may come, but we've shown the galaxy that no darkness is too great, no enemy too strong. Courage can stand against anything. Humanity will stand." Outside, the stars shimmered as if responding to the humans' triumph. Reports came in from distant worlds. Systems that had once cowered in fear were now celebrating. Messages of thanks, admiration, and hope flowed across communication channels. Humanity's victory had become a symbol, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope could shine through. In the quiet moments, Vance walked among her crew. She placed a hand on the shoulder of the youngest engineer, who had worked tirelessly, despite the terror of battle. She spoke to the gunners who had struck with deadly precision, to the navigators who had steered the ship through impossible maneuvers, and to every crew member who had given their courage freely. "You all are the reason the galaxy has hope," she said. "Never forget it." The human crew looked at one another, pride and sorrow mingling in their expressions. They had fought, they had lost friends, but they had also changed the course of history. The galaxy would remember this day, and in that remembrance, humanity's legacy would endure. Captain Vance returned to the bridge and stood silently, watching the stars. She thought of the world saved, of the fear turned into hope, and of the lives that had been preserved through courage and determination. "We are more than a ship," she said quietly. "We are a reminder that even in the face of impossible odds, the human spirit will never break. Humanity is hope." The Allied fleets began to move forward, following the lead of the humans. The Dralnoth retreating in the distance were a reminder of the cost, but also of the victory that courage could bring. Across the galaxy, stories would be told of a single human warship, of Captain Ilara Vance and her crew, of the bravery that inspired millions, and of hope that refused to die. And as the Resolute glided through the stars, battered but unbowed, a quiet truth became clear. Humanity was no longer just a species among many. Humanity had become a symbol. Wherever humans went, hope would follow. Wherever humans fought, courage would shine. And wherever humans stood, darkness would never dominate. The galaxy had been reminded, against impossible odds, against overwhelming darkness, against fear itself, humanity would rise. Captain Vance looked out one last time. "We will continue," she whispered, "because that is what humans do, and the galaxy will never forget it." And in that moment, the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, celebrating the courage, the sacrifice, and the enduring spirit of humanity. The battle was over. The war would continue, but humanity's legacy had already begun.